Mic check, mic check. All right, so we back in this thing. Another late night. Just getting off of work. But I got something that I have to share, which is I've done the calculations and I've talked to enough people and I've taken in enough information to have figured out this whole thing that they got going where it's like men and women hate each other or people not being together anymore and the birth rates declining and all of that talk. And I think I've finally figured it out after much research. And this is what you would call the purple pill. It's not a red pill or a blue pill. It's both of them smashed together. And what I've come up with is the reason why relationships are where they're at right now is because we come from a generation that had both parents, if you had both parents, because a lot of us didn't have both parents in the house. But for those of you that did have both parents, both of your parents were workers. And the other 55% of people who probably grew up in either a split home or a divorced home or where like your parents weren't really together, you also grew up where both of your parents were working, unless you were kind of like Section 8 type of kid. But for the most part, your parents weren't really there every single day. So we'll rewind. Let's go back in time. Feminism started like in let's say like the 50s or 60s. And around that time, the man and the woman would get married at a young age and then build a family. And around that time, women were at home nurturing the kids. Maybe the kids went to school, but for the most part, the mother was there nurturing the kids while the father worked to take care of the kids, and then he would come and spend maybe the weekends with them. A few hours throughout the weekdays. And those kids grew up where, mom was fighting for her rights. And then they had their kids, those kids grew up, and then they became parents of the kids who were like in the 70s and in the 80s. And those were what they call the latchkey kids, or the type of kids where both of the parents were more so out of the house than their grandparents. So mom worked and dad worked. And maybe it wasn't as much as the generations to follow, but mom and dad both worked. So the kids of the 70s and the 80s spent a lot of time by themselves, or they were outside. And so there was a lot of individuality. See, before that, there was a lot of community-based thing. And as the 60s came along, there was like community. Then as the 70s and 80s rolled in, we started like losing community, and it more so became like these small little communities, which was like your friend group. So like family wasn't as important as it was in previous generations. Now walk with me. The people that were born in the 70s and 80s was the generation of people who were having teenage pregnancies at a high rate. So the parents that were having kids from the 70s and 80s had kids in the 90s. And a lot of these kids grew up with young parents, or if they came from a good background, parents that were like affluent and in a good situation, but that like didn't last long. So then the kids of the 90s, their parents were the ones who were working a lot, where mom and dad both had to work, and the kids of the 90s were, locked door kids, I would say, where it's like when you take the bus to school, you get up, you get yourself ready for school, then you go to the bus stop and you ride the bus to school, and then you come home from school. Your parents aren't there because your parents are still at work. You got off of school around 2 something, maybe 3 something. So for about 2 to 3 hours, you spent that time either with you and your younger siblings or older siblings, or by yourself. Maybe some of y'all had like family members that you would stay with, and then your parents would come pick you guys up then. But you had a lot of like free time to kind of like be yourself and like figure out who you were, because you were either at your aunt's or your uncle's house, or you were by yourself. And so there wasn't a parent always there, or you were at home by yourself, cooking your own food, figuring out things by yourself. So you became more individualistic. And then, you got like gaming systems that really started to crack off in the 90s. And then, like 97, like PlayStation comes out. And so now you're really in your own world. You're not as community based. You guys aren't sitting at the table having dinner together talking about how school went. Either your mom is like whipping something together real quick, like some spaghetti, or you getting a microwave dinner, and everybody's going their own way. Parents are probably going to their rooms, kids are probably going to their rooms or like living room. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And this created this system of everybody being individual, being an individual. It's me first. I'm thinking about me. I'm not thinking about us as a collective. So those kids in the 90s grow up, and they grew up by themselves. So now relationships are as important to them as it was previous generations. Then the 70s and the 80s kids was out, getting it in. And the 90s kids grow up, and you got like all of this different types of entertainment, and both of your parents are usually gone. So you're kind of like forced to, grow up early, but reach this plateau of still being a kid. So you stay a kid much longer because you grow up quicker, if that makes sense. And then the 2000s come around, and you get like social media comes in right around the time where the 90s kids are starting to get older. And so then everybody's always like comparing and judging and trying to see where their life's at, and seeing how far ahead or how far behind you are with other people. And then you get, the kids that come after that, the kids of the 90s, baby, who grow up with social media. And they're not worried about any of that stuff. They're worried about how they look on social media. They don't like a boyfriend or a girlfriend is like an accessory. It's like putting a charm on your hat, or like wearing earrings. Like, they're not even seeing relationships the same way as previous generations. had seen relationships. And that is why we have now the stats of where it's like nobody's having kids. And then the people that are having kids, their kids don't want to have kids. And if they do have kids, they're having like one, maybe two kids, but usually about one. And that kid is just being spoiled to death because both parents are probably divorced and they're just, you know, feeding the kid whatever they want because they feel bad about their terrible relationship. And we just have bred a selfish, self centered, individualistic society with like everything that has come about. And that is why relationships are the way they are. It's not because men and women hate each other, because we love each other and we love what each other can do for each other. Obviously, those things come with a price. But anything that's worth having comes with a price. So, this is why relationships are the way that they are. It's not because we hate each other, it's because of the way that we grew up. We grew up thinking about ourselves first and then everybody else. And we grew up by ourselves, even in a house full of people. This is why there's such a divide. And that is the purple pill. I've figured it out. I've been able to put my thumb on it. And that's why everything is the way that it is. And you know, if you agree or you don't agree, let me know because I want to have conversation with people in the comments if y'all feel the same way or not. Maybe you got a different interpretation of why men and women are at odds with each other, or as maybe that's just our feeds. This is what they're feeding into the social media to make us think this. And you know, when you think about it on a deeper level, it's better that men and women work. Why? Because now we can control what the kids see. So we raise the kids, not the parents, whoever the we is. And you can get the tax benefits of being able to tax both mom and dad. You get the consumer debt because, you know, now men and women have credit cards and are out spending money. And you get people even more so spending money because they're so me first. So it just works out for all of the companies and all of the economics of life for everybody to be individuals rather than a part of something that is bigger than themselves. So whether it was planned or whether it just happened by happenstance, either way, it feeds into the world that we're in today. That's why I'm able to have a camera with a computer where I could talk into a mic and have something to say and upload it and it be done in 20 minutes. So that's my thoughts on it. And you know, if you feel the same way, if you feel indifferent, let me know. And until the next one, stay suave, stay stupid. All right, I'm out.